Hi everyone, welcome to our Dare to Be Ask Me Anything series. I'm Logan Everett. I think we're just gonna wait for the Instagram to join as well. Are we good to go? Okay, awesome. Alrighty, so hello Instagram. Nice to see you. Hi, Facebook as well. So today, once again, my name is Logan Everett. I am the Corporate Engagement Coordinator here at Dare to Be. Today we are continuing our Ask Me Anything series, and today we have Renee here. We're very excited. She's been an integral part of Dare to Be's growth. She did a lot of team leadership. She's basically helped create how easy it is to do good here at Dare to Be. So she's got a lot of knowledge. We're very excited to have her here. And so we're just going to jump right in. So firstly, Renee, did you grow up in New York?
I did not, no. I'm originally from Virginia. That's where I was born. But when I was 10 or 11, my family moved abroad to Switzerland. So
oh, wow.
I lived in Switzerland until I moved back to the States just before my 19th birthday to go to college in Boston. And after graduating college is when I came to New York.
Wow, that's crazy. Do you miss Switzerland?
Every single day, but today particularly because it's actually Swiss National Day.
Oh, so, well, happy Swiss National Day.
Yeah.
That's hard to say that 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So what is your exact position title?
At Dare to Be, I'm the team leader for our Harlem site. So with that, I kind of oversee the programming. We have programming there every Wednesday evening where we have volunteers and children. So I oversee the programming, what the kids are doing that day. I also originally started recruiting the volunteers, but now we actually have a volunteer recruitment team. So I don't have to do the recruiting anymore, but I still do kind of like the onboarding with them, do a little bit of training. I make sure that kids have their snacks, help the volunteers get acquainted with the program because a lot of the volunteers are coming to the site before they're actually fully immersed in Dare to Be and what we stand for and what we do. And then I also do like a little huddle at the end to see, what they experienced. One of my favorite things about Dare to Be is actually that we focus really a lot of our energy on ensuring that volunteers have just as good of an experience as our participants do. So we try to make sure that they have an outlet to voice, their opinions, how they felt during class. And then we also want to make sure that they're coming back for our one-off events, so like the pop-up shops that we have in Harlem, or the Thanksgiving event that we have, the Christmas toy drives and the Christmas events. So that's kind of a holistic explanation for what I do here.
That's amazing. Yeah, as you were talking, it's interesting because you are basically, like you said, kind of the first person that kind of introduces these new volunteers to Dare to Be's mission and what they do, and they're actually on the ground and seeing that impact happen. Do you find that people come back a lot, that is there high turnover? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, no, that didn't answer it at all. Yeah, no. So I'm not the first person that they're talking with. They do get an email once they sign up, and then they get the information once they confirm that they'll be at class about where to be, what to wear, what to expect, that kind of stuff. But I think I'm probably, generally speaking, one of the first people they meet in person.
Right.
But I definitely find that we have, a lot of our volunteers coming back. Again, I really like that Dare to Be works with the volunteers to ensure that there's not too much expected of them, but there always is a way for them to be a part of Dare to Be if they want to be. So we always let them know that we don't expect them at class on a weekly basis. We want it to work within their schedules so it doesn't become too cumbersome or too much burden on them.
They feel like they have to do it all or nothing.
Yeah. But Dare to Be is not like that at all. They can pick and choose when they come back. We have volunteers. A lot of our volunteers, I want to say on Harlem right now, are there at least once a month.
Oh, wow.
If not more. But we definitely get a lot of new recruit volunteers during the holidays. And I think those holiday events really sell coming back as a volunteer for a weekly program. So a lot of the volunteers we meet there will come back to the weekly program.
Got it.
And then I also find that they'll find the Harlem site, and then the Harlem site won't necessarily work with their schedule or where they live or anything like that. So they'll end up, reaching out for other opportunities with Dare to Be, so they can go to Brooklyn, or they can do like the one-off events that we have, like the hiking stuff. A lot of the hiking volunteers came from the programming and then found other opportunities. So we are super blessed in that most of our volunteers come back.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it is interesting that, like you said, it's while you do get an introductory email from Monica, who was our interviewee last week, it is something that I was personally very surprised with whenever I first volunteered at the Brooklyn site, and I showed up, and it's awkward, and it's kind of like a first date, and you're just like, who do I talk to? Who's here for this and who's volunteering? And it's a little uncomfortable, but immediately I was greeted and welcomed, and it was like, okay, this is what you're going to do. This is your task. And I knew exactly what I was doing, which made me feel like I was actually part of the Dare to Be team rather than volunteering for the Dare to Be team, which was really special.
I think that's probably one of the greatest, I guess, business aspects of Dare to Be, is that we rely so heavily on our volunteers that, like you said, they're not volunteers for Dare to Be, they're volunteers with Dare to Be, and absolutely an integral part of the team. We could not do what we do without our volunteers.
Yeah. Oh, I want to give a round of applause to the volunteers. Okay, cool. So I'm curious how you've been here for quite a while, and you've been a big part of the growth. So how did you first get involved?
So I volunteered a lot in high school. I would work at a soup kitchen in Switzerland, and then, a bunch of different events wherever something was necessary. I really, really like giving back to my community. That was something that my parents instilled in me in a really young age, that you don't have to have money to give back. You can also give your time and your expertise. So after a couple of years in New York, I was feeling a little more settled. I knew what I was doing with my career. In my full-time job, I'm in marketing and communications, and also at an education nonprofit. But I'm really on the back end, the corporate side of that one. So I was looking for opportunities to give back to my community on more of the programming side, so I could be face-to-face with our participants. And I just did some research on Volunteer Match, actually.
That's what I did.
That's how I found Dare to Be. But it was also like one of those weird situations where everything just fell into place, because the site that I oversee is in Harlem, which is super close to my apartment. But when I reached out to apply for the position, they asked me to come in for an interview, and they sent the address of their offices, and it's the same office that my full-time job is in.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, okay, I obviously have to be a part of this. Like, it's all worked out too well for me. And as you know, in New York City, nothing works out like that location-wise. That's never happened. So I was like, this is absolutely a sign that I need to be a part of this org.
Wow. I mean, and that's, like you said, it's funny because it's not the same exact story, but this office is actually right down the street from where I live. So whenever I got sent the address, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is so convenient. And
that's so rare in New York City.
So rare. But it's interesting too, because it does feel like it all falls into place, but the reality also is, I mean, besides the address part, because that can't be, structured for every individual person. But Roxana and the rest of the team, they're very good about creating a position specifically for you, creating a schedule for you, like you said, making it very personalized, so that it does feel like, oh wow, this is so easy. It's
absolutely.
But it's actually, that's what we do. We want it to be easy.
So when I initially reached out to Dare to Be to apply for an open position, it was actually as a Zumba instructor.
Oh, cool.
For the Harlem site, and then I came and I met with Julia and Roxana, and we just kind of talked about my background, what I was looking for in a role. And they were the ones that were like, okay, you can do the Zumba instructor role if you want, but we kind of see you fitting here, given where you want to go, what you want to learn, what you want to do. And that helps us fill the need here, but it also helps you to grow. So I've grown so much, I think, as a professional because of Dare to Be, because it really pushed me outside my boundaries. Like, I am the kind of person that I feel like I can't delegate things. Like, if I'm delegating, then I'm not doing the job.
So I've said the same thing. I don't know how she delegates the way that she does. It's amazing. Yeah.
But every single learning experience that I've had with Roxana has been like, she sat me down and said, we appreciate what you're doing. We see you. We hear you. But you need to delegate more. You
Mhm.
can't take everything on. And
Yeah.
I think that's really helped me as a leader, at Dare to Be, but also in my full-time job, also, helped me to become more of an organized person. So
Right.
now, like,
Yeah.
I have a full schedule of what I'm doing all the
Yeah.
time. So I really appreciate that about Dare to Be, is that they take you for who you are and what you do and push you to be more,
Right.
but also find, like you said, they find the right fit for you.
Mhm.
So even if you're applying for one thing and you can do that thing,
Mhm.
they'll recommend, yeah, you can do this, but you probably want to do this instead.
Absolutely. I was actually just speaking with our founder, Roxana, about this, how it's really important that whatever you do, you want to grow in whatever avenue that you are, whether it be volunteering or even with your own personal job. Like, you need to have the passion for that in order to want to be pushed, but also understand that there's a work-life balance. Like, you can't do it all, and we're all here to help, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So amazing. And you mentioned that you also worked in the back end at another nonprofit. So what are the skills that you have learned through Dare to Be that have helped you in your personal career? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is leadership. So when I started at my full-time job, I was an assistant, and I'm now a people manager. And I think that's largely because Dare to Be taught me how to delegate and oversee a team, and also recognize that because I can't do something doesn't mean someone else on my team can do it. And the fact do it and not be able to do it myself. And Dare to Be really taught me that no one can do everything themselves, and relying on your team and pushing your team and having your team work with you and work with them is actually a success.
Absolutely.
So I would say that the leadership aspect of it really, really helped me. I think it also helped me kind of come out of my shell and realize that, because I was quite young when I started. So when I started, I had kind of the idea that I wasn't experienced or old enough to have valuable opinions.
Right, yeah.
So Roxana, our founder, always pulled those opinions out of me. Even if I wasn't saying something, she would put me on the spot, which I hated at first.
Right.
Because she would say, okay, Renee, you haven't said anything on this leadership call. What do you think? And I would be like, well, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to.
Right, exactly.
But she kind of gave me that confidence to say, maybe my opinion's wrong this time, but there's nothing wrong with sharing it.
Right.
Or then learning through that.
Exactly. Well, it's funny you mentioned assistant, because I also worked as an assistant, and it's such an incredible opportunity when you do work for somebody who owns their own business or their own company, to learn the ins and outs. But you definitely get this I don't know if it's like a learned habit where it's just you want to assist, you want to help, you want to do it all, and it's very difficult, I think, sometimes to transition from assisting someone to then leading others. And it's a delicate transition.
But there's the balance there too, because even if you're leading someone, you're assisting them in how they're learning and how they're growing, because you want your team to grow too.
Totally.
So
yeah, it's amazing. All right, so I'm curious. We have the Dominican Republic trip coming up in just very soon. So I was like, did it already happen? I was like, wait a minute. So I'm just curious, in your opinion, what is the impact that you see, or the potential impact that Dare to Be can have on a global scale, since you lived in Switzerland as well, so you kind of understand the different types of philanthropy that happen in different countries?
Yeah. Another great thing that I love about the business model of Dare to Be is that we really try to meet not just our volunteers, but also our participants where they are. So something that I think is pretty unique to Dare to Be is that each one of our sites have very different and very specific programming. So the kids that I work with in Harlem, most of them are pretty young. So we focus a lot on motor skills and sharing and coloring and learning the colors, learning the numbers, some basic math, some reading, that kind of stuff. But then at our other sites, like in Brooklyn, the kids are a lot older, so they can do more career development and career exploration. So I think with the idea that we meet the needs of our participants wherever they are and whatever they need is absolutely applicable to literally everywhere.
Right, anywhere they are.
We don't have a hard and fast rule of this is the program or this is the class or this is what we're doing right now. It's what are the needs and how can we make them happen?
That's a really interesting, I'm glad that you brought that up, because we do have that 7-step program, but like you said, kids could be at a different step. You know, it's not like you have to start from, you know, it's tailored to everyone. Wow. So one thing I was curious about is, and I think this is something I've asked everyone, and I think it's a really important question. There's a lot of stigmas and misconceptions about homelessness, and I'm curious if maybe there was something that you commonly see that people have in terms of judgment about homelessness, or maybe something that you might have thought prior to working with Dare to Be, and what is that, and how has it been dispelled in your opinion?
Yeah. So I'm going to give a warning because there's a story that goes along with my answer here, and it always makes me cry.
Oh no. I'm going to cry too.
So I would say, I think there is this like general understanding, or not understanding, but general idea that people who are homeless or are living in a homeless shelter because they did something wrong to end up there. And Dare to Be really, really taught me that that's not the case. Sometimes it's just society that let these people down, and it let them fall through the cracks. So the story that I want to tell about this is there was one boy, and I'm really happy to say that he and his father are no longer living in a homeless shelter. They have a home. They're not there anymore. And I'm sad that I don't get to see him all the time, but it's for his own good. And
right, exactly.
But there was one boy who was in our Harlem class, who he and his father, it was just the two of them. His father had worked every single day in his life, or not every day in his life, but in his adult life.
Right.
He had a steady job. He and his son were doing great. And one day when the son was at school and the father was at work, their apartment building caught on fire. And they didn't, it's New York City, no one has renter's insurance here, so they didn't have renter's insurance. They don't have friends and family in New York. They hadn't been here that long. And they lost everything.
Oh my God.
Like, just because of a freak accident, they lost their home, their money, their life savings, everything. And they moved into the shelter in Harlem. And when they were at the shelter in Harlem, the little boy got septic arthritis.
Oh my God.
And had to undergo like 5 emergency surgeries in one day. And his father had to quit his job because they had no one to help him. He needed 24-hour care.
Wow.
So they did nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong.
He had everything going for him. He had a stable job. The kid was doing great in school, and society kind of just let them down. They ended up in a place where they had nothing else. They had no other options. I'm happy to say everyone's doing well, but they did nothing. And I think society tends to assume that they're there because they messed up.
Yeah.
That they went down the wrong path somewhere, but that's not the case.
Not at all. And like you said, I mean, the consequences of those two things have absolutely nothing to do with the personal decision. It has to do with the fact that, I mean, there's issues in terms of our healthcare system, there's issues in terms of our housing system, and there aren't safety nets for people to fall back on. I mean, fortunately, we had the shelter, to shelter them, but it's just, I don't know. Like you said, I think people tend to put a moral judgment on homelessness where it's, you must be getting punished for something.
Yeah.
And it's so we just need to completely change the narrative, because it can happen to anyone.
It can. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm sorry to make you cry, but it's a beautiful story, and I think people are really going to, especially parents, resonate with it.
Yeah.
And is the son okay? I mean,
he's still, last I heard, he was still going through surgeries, but he's much better. He was walking again last time I saw him.
Wow.
He was not good for a really long time. He went from like running on a baseball team to not even able to stand for 5 minutes. So it was rough, but they pulled it through. And I like to think that a lot of it is because he had this friendly outlet through Dare to Be. Dare to Be was the one constant through the whole of their time at the shelter. Yeah,
that's so important, having that sense of autonomy, having that sense of you're a human being. You're not a statistic. You're not a problem. You're not your illness. You're a person. And we're here to treat you like our brother, like our sisters. Yeah. Wow. Oh, I have chills. All right. So I guess this kind of segues into that as well. What is your favorite part about your job here?
That's a hard one.
I know. You can say everything.
Yeah, kind of everything. I mean, I really like I was saying before, I love the fact that Dare to Be is just as focused on the volunteers as it is on the participants. I don't know, I can't remember if Roxana talked about this in her interview, but Dare to Be was actually founded because Roxana was working at or volunteering with different Thanksgiving events and realized that like no one cared about the volunteers. No one cared if they were having a good time, if they were, yeah. And so I love the fact that a huge part of my job is ensuring that volunteers are enjoying their experience. They're not confused.
Right.
They're welcomed,
Right.
and they're a part of a Dare to Be family at the end. You know,
Absolutely.
if you're going to give your time, we're absolutely going to give our time back to you.
Right.
So I love that, but I also love that my job at Dare to Be kind of fills the holes of my full-time job.
Absolutely.
And that I actually get to be with the participants and I get to see the kids on a weekly basis and you know, watch them grow almost. I don't have kids of my own, so I kind of think of them like my kids, where like you know, when I started, this little girl couldn't share anything for the life of her. She did not want anyone touching her toys, and now she is actively like, here, do you want my crayon? Let me help you color in this line. You know,
you're gonna be at like PTA meetings, like,
you're like, okay, what is she doing in class right now?
How is she going? Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's we did talk briefly about that with Roxana, and you know, she said that she was frustrated at this kind of, like you said, it was almost this nonchalant behavior toward the volunteers, and then it was because of that, it's frustrating for the volunteers who volunteer their time and they want to get something out of it. They want to feel like they've made an impact. So you know, it was kind of like depressing, and the attitude was, the vibe was wrong, and that's was supposed to be a special event, and it just created this kind of dark cloud. And I think that feeds into the narrative that Dare to Be is trying to change, where it's like people go to these spaces and you know, it's disorganized maybe, or it's frustrating on every end, and it's sad. It's hard. It's emotionally difficult to go to these spaces.
And that doesn't make you want to go back.
Exactly. That keeps a cloud saying, oh, well, they must have done something wrong because this is just too much for me.
It doesn't break that stigma. It doesn't break that cycle. It doesn't really help anyone.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Wow, okay. So let's see here. I guess we can kind of, well, we'll segue more into like work-life balance, and then we'll go into some interesting things about you I think would be fun to ask you about. So firstly, how do you balance? I'm so curious about this with everyone. Like, how do you balance work, life, and volunteering at Dare to Be?
I am so anal with my planning.
I did buy, I will just hold this up. This is a larger planner that I had to purchase since starting here. Yes.
Yeah, I have my daily planners. Every Sunday night I write out my whole plan for the week. It's like what meals I'm eating, when I'm grocery shopping,
that's a full
when I'm working out, when I have my meetings. I have all of that, but I also have like I have my Google Calendar on my phone, which has everything that my planner has too, but I have to have it in like 8 different places, otherwise I'm probably gonna forget. And I have so many phone reminders. I literally have a reminder at 1 p.m. every single day to sit up straight. Like that's the level of anal that I am. So that makes it work.
I mean, you know what? I really dislike planning. I feel like sometimes it can be a waste of time, where I'm like, oh, it's taking me an hour.
When you have to plan when you're gonna plan,
right?
That gets hard.
Exactly. But that's a great part about working with Dare to Be is for the people who are in their corporate careers. I'm sure they have this down perfectly. However, I'm a college student, so it was a skill that I fine-tuned, and it's been very, very helpful since starting here. So.
Highly recommend buying planners.
Yes,
everyone.
Yes. Plan your planning, people. It's very important. So I'm curious. First, we'll start out with, what is your favorite dessert?
Oof. Anything with dark chocolate.
Yeah.
Unless it has coconut. I hate coconut.
Oh, really?
But everything else, I'll eat that.
So no mounds.
No mounds. No almond joy.
So much joy missing.
But anything with chocolate, and the darker the chocolate, the better.
Interesting. Well, that's actually very healthy, so there you go.
I try.
So do you have what are your current favorite books that you're reading right now?
I am really into true crime.
Oh.
So I'm currently reading The Devil in a White City, which is about H.H. Holmes.
Oh, wow.
Who, I don't know if we have any true crime people out there, but H.H. Holmes built kind of like a murder house in Chicago around the time of the World's Fair, where he lured women in and kept them into their house. So I'm reading a book on that right now.
This, yes.
Yeah, they made movies. There are loads of books on it. I think like every crime show has touched on it. Every crime podcast has talked about it at least once. He's kind of like the father of murder.
Oh, wow. So you go from like working nonprofit, you're helping Dare to Be, changing lives, and then you're like, all right, let's murder.
Yep.
Now, do you have, are you a fan of like crime TV? What are you binge watching right now?
Criminal Minds, which is also about murder.
Okay. All right. You know what? It's very fascinating, and you do learn. They plan everything, so it's
they're huge planners. But it also teaches you like the red signs of people,
right? Exactly.
Or the red flags of people, so you know like what to watch out for. Because New York City, they got some.
We're very
not such great people here too, so you want to be
very
aware.
packed in here. We're like rats in a cage sometimes. Absolutely. And it's kind of interesting because you do like to work with the kids, and like you mentioned, you know, helping them learn how to share and stuff like that. It's interesting that the common thread within the crime part, but also with working with Dare to Be is that you're just interested in psychology, I think.
Yeah. I like figuring out how people think.
Right.
I don't know. It's good in a sense that I feel like it helps me to meet people where they are, which is why I think I'm able to work with kids, but at the same time, it does keep me up at night where I'm like, why did he say this one sentence? What does it mean?
Right. Right. Like, what do I need to do something? I don't know.
Like, it could have been 6 months ago, but I'm still thinking about it.
Girl, I have been there. So I'm also curious, let's see here. If, I think we have some user questions. Do you have a favorite? You mentioned that you schedule exercise as well. Do you have like a favorite? You mentioned Zumba. Do you have a favorite like workout class, or like is there a specific?
I do really love my workout classes. I don't know if my trainer is watching, but I told him to. So shout out to him because he's like the best workout of the week. I always hate him at the moment. Yeah. But it's good. But I also do pole dance fitness.
Oh,
and I really, really love that. Wow. It's not like the exotic, sexy dance that people think it is. I'm normally like screaming in pain because everything hurts to do it, but it really pushes you.
Great workout, I've heard. I know someone that does it, and I've never seen more athleticism in my life.
Yeah,
like it's insane.
Another thing that my parents really instilled in me at a young age is to always take care of yourself, and a good way to take care of yourself is through exercise. So I've always been, I think, interested in fitness, but in the past like year and a half, 2 years since I started pole dancing, I think it's kind of changed everything in regards to like how like what I'm looking for in fitness. So. Right,
and it also tests your mental strength because you look at something that like I'm gonna use physics incorrectly. Aerodynamically makes no sense, and you're like, I don't see how this is gonna work. But you know, you can dispel your own biases about what you're capable of, and that is also exercise is also really important, like you mentioned, for just mental health and emotional health and just brain health altogether. And that's a really integral part of Dare to Be's program as well. So I think that's, you know, it's really, really important.
Yeah. Health and wellness is actually one of our seven steps at Dare to Be. So, you know, practice what you preach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I am curious if we have any questions from the audience. Do we have any on Instagram?
We have some people waving and commenting.
Let's see. So let's see. So we do have one question. How long do you work? Do you stay working with the kids? Is it just like a year, or how long is the process that they're in the program?
As long as they're living at a shelter that Dare to Be partners with, they're welcome at our programs. So there are some kids, you know, who have been there. I started in 2016. There are some kids that I've been with every single week since then. There are some, you know, it's awesome for me personally.
I was gonna say it's a double-edged sword.
When I get to see them all the time, but it's almost a good thing to miss them, because that means they're moving on and moving up. So,
and
as long as they're there, they're welcome.
It's amazing. I love that. And do you also, like, are you able to keep in contact with them, or do they, you know, reach out to you after the program? I'm curious about that as well.
Yeah, we there are a couple of families that I've stayed in contact with. You know, one of them actually presented my award at last year's last year's anniversary, which are 10 years coming up.
Yes,
I know everyone's talking about that on these, but just mentioning it again.
Yes.
So yeah, the mom and her son, they had moved out of the shelter almost a year before that, and we're still, you know, part of the family, reaching out to me, reaching out to Roxana. And the mom actually reached out to both Roxana and I, asking to, you know, be a volunteer to give back.
That's amazing.
So it does come
Pay
full
it
circle.
forward. Yeah. And it is important also to mention to the audience that, you know, we're very aware that maybe not everybody wants to work with kids or feels comfortable working with kids. So you don't necessarily always have to do that. That's not, we do have on-site stuff that you can assist with, whether it be like packing a care package or anything like that. So we just want to throw that out there as well.
Yeah, or during the holidays, we need, you know, toy sorters. We need meal prep. We need everything.
Yeah.
And no, obviously you can believe it. It's not believe it or not. Everyone knows that anything that happens on the site happens because there's been hours of preparation before. So our behind the scenes team is, one, phenomenal, and two, so necessary, and we always need volunteers there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely, if you have any questions, or if you're in the area and you would near Harlem and you want to check it out, so Renee will be there. You can say hi to her, and then how can people get in contact with you?
My Dare to Be email is teamleaderharlem@daretobe.org. We also have volunteers at daretobe.org. That is probably the first step, reaching out to one of us there, and someone will always respond.
Yeah, they will. I promise. They responded to me. Yeah, I don't think we have any other questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Anyone? No? I think we covered it all.
Somebody asked if we needed volunteers and how often, and we notified them that they're always looking for volunteers. They could volunteer short-term, long-term, or per season.
It's a great question. Yeah. So we're always, like you said, looking for volunteers, short-term, long-term, seasonal, whatever, we'll make it work. And then if you do have, if you'd like to come and just learn more about our volunteer positions and leadership or behind the scenes, we'd love to talk to you guys. So definitely reach out to us. And the anniversary event.
Yes. The anniversary event on September 14th. If you're watching this, you obviously know how to find us on social media. That's a good place to find any upcoming events. So the anniversary event is one of them. During the holidays, we always need volunteers, and those, you know, it's August 1st today, but the holidays are right around the corner. So we're already recruiting for that too. So yeah, check out the Facebook, the Instagram. We have a Twitter as well. We post everything there.
Yeah. It's a question for Renee from Emily Labes. How do you deal with conflict between the kids when it arises?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. Thanks, Emily. Now I have to think.
Still trying to figure that one out. Right?
Yeah. So I would say one of the limitations that we have is we do, like I said, we work with the kids in their space. We want it to be, you know, accessible to them and also comfortable for them. So being where they are is important. But because of that, we have very limited space in Harlem. So one of the things that we try to do is have at least one adult to every 2 to 3 students. So because the kids are so young in Harlem, a lot of it is physically just separating them. You know, you guys aren't getting along. Your toys are over here. Your toys are over here. You sit apart from each other. we do enforce timeout
Mhm.
with these kids because again they're pretty young, so we do have a timeout chair.
Mhm.
Luckily we don't have to use it very often, so this isn't an issue that has come up too much.
Yeah.
And then on more extreme cases, there are responsibilities and consequences for your actions. So if you can't follow the rules, then unfortunately next week you're going to have to sit class out.
Mhm.
But then afterwards, once you've thought about your actions and how it made others feel, then you can come back and be a part of our class again.
It's really interesting because enforcing rules like that, that's what parents do. And it's
Mhm.
exhausting.
It is. And
Yeah.
also then they're mad at you.
I know. I was going to say, it really is a commitment. Like you're really
Yeah.
committing to say, hey, I want you to be better for yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
And
we've all
also
been
for
there.
everyone around you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there's also, we mentioned I'd spoken to Roxana about the kids in the Harlem site because they are young. What's interesting is that there are times when you guys do like arts and crafts, and it's really interesting to see because oftentimes if conflict arises, it usually has like an emotional or there's something deeper there sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but just sometimes. And I think it's really important for the Dare to Be team to be, allowing these kids to have a voice for themselves, explain their
Mhm.
story.
Yeah.
And like the young boy that you mentioned earlier who, dealt with homelessness while also getting this like just tragic medical diagnoses, and mentally it's taxing. I mean,
Mhm.
I cannot imagine the amount of personal strength you have to have in order to get through
Go
that.
through that, yeah.
And so having an outlet where you can feel comfortable expressing yourself
Mhm.
and talking and hearing and listening is really, really important for these kids, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also what's important for them is that Dare to Be is really consistent.
Right.
So we have had kids that have, moved from one site to another, know no one, don't have any friends there, they're not in school yet, or they haven't started at their new school yet, all they have is their family, and then they walk in, and one of the things that Dare to Be does is we wear a black shirt with blue jeans or
Right.
something of that sort. And there have been times that they've come in, known no one, and then there's like a 4-year-old that runs up to you because they're like, you're in Dare to Be uniform.
Right.
I know this.
Mhm.
This is consistent.
Mhm.
So having that consistency, I think, is helpful for them too.
Mhm.
And like you were saying about having a creative outlet, just because they're too young to write or read
Right.
or really express their emotions, they are expressing it on paper.
Absolutely.
And there is one boy who, when he started, he was drawing such dark drawings.
Wow.
Like we didn't know what was going on. And I think it was just that he didn't have a lot of
light in his life.
light. Yeah,
Right.
a lot of love, a lot of
Mhm.
light. And through Dare to Be, just through his drawings,
Wow.
he went from like drawing really dark, really horrible things to now like writing I love you and putting drawings of you next to him saying like you're my friend. So
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
important too. And that kind of brings it all full circle to why Roxana created Dare to Be in the first place, which was, hey, this is a Thanksgiving event. This is a holiday event. Like,
Mhm.
let's celebrate the holidays.
Yeah.
Like you don't just need food, you need light, you need
Yeah.
love, we need to celebrate together
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, we're
because
all in this
life is
together.
hard, so let's
Yes,
celebrate when we
right.
can.
Totally. You keep giving me chills. I'm just like, I don't even know how to follow up these questions. So, do we have any more? Is there any more? I think that's it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
you for all the
you.
work you do. I really appreciate you. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. You can always rewatch it. It will be posted on the Dare to Be Facebook page. And then catch us next week, Thursday. Well, not you, don't worry.
No.
She's on the chopping block. It's just gonna be me. Next week at 1:30 on Thursday. So thank you guys. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day. Thank you.